Welcome to Simsarulia, our first full flight demonstration. We will be flying today from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to Wilmington, North Carolina. And we'll be flying in this beautiful Diamond DA50 retractable gear. We'll pretend this is our external inspection, and this gives you a chance to take a look at the airport environment. We're sitting on the ramp at Beach Aviation in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Now let's hop aboard the plane just to set up some final things. So we'll assume that we've done all the pre-flight checklists and gotten all the way to engine startup. A few things I want to do is let's put the cursor on animation. Right here, the altitude, make sure that it is at 5,000 feet. We have checked the weather. I'm using ForeFlight just to speed things up instead of dialing in the frequency code. And I know our weather right now is wind coming out of 170 at 8 knots. The sky is clear. Our altimeter setting is 29.97, so let's dial that in, and that's over here, and I'll dial that in at 29.97. That gives us an altitude of about 38 feet above sea level, and that corresponds to the real elevation of 25 feet. All we have to be is 60 feet error, so this is reading very nicely. All right, so that's good. Our elevation, our altimeter setting. Oh, one other thing. While we're sitting on the ramp, let's make sure that our cowl is open. Make sure that our temperature stays low in our engine while we're on the ramp and taxiing and climbing. All right, very good. Next thing, let's set up a flight plan. Right now, as you can see, it reads that we are sitting at Myrtle Beach. That's Kilo Mike Yankee Romeo. And now let's dial in Wilmington's, which is Kilo India Lima Mike Wilmington. So let's enter that in, and we now have our flight plan, Myrtle Beach to KLM. That'll help our autopilot. Okay, cool. So again, we have done all of our checks, and I'm skipping through a lot of things, of course. We're not going to be talking to live air traffic control, ATC. This is sort of a combination VFR, IFR demonstration flight. But we are ready to roll. So assume we have gotten our flight plan from ground control, our craft clearance. Assume that craft is C cleared to Wilmington. That's the route direct. The altitude is at 5,000 feet. Assume we've gotten our departure frequency, and assume that we have gotten a IFR squawk code, even though we're going to be using this 1200 squawk code here, which is VFR, but we're assuming this is an IFR flight. All right, very good. So let's get rolling. We'll give the throttle a little push here. Back a little bit now that we are moving. All right. We were cleared to runway 18. Let's make sure we don't hit any airplanes on our way out, eh? All right. Very good. Let's also try to stay on the yellow lines. Okay, and we've been cleared to taxi. Again, we'll get on our yellow line here. I will trim some of these sections off of the video if it gets too long and boring in spots. Here we've got a taxi all the way to the start of runway 18. We get a chance to look at the weather a little bit. So you only have scattered clouds. And by the way, I'm using real weather in real time for this flight. Alright, the whole short line is usually marked, not usually, always marked with hash marks over here, the little checkered pattern. You can see right here. And this is usually a spot where we all stop and do the final engine run-ups and get our final departure clearance. We switch over from ground control frequency to frequency. And while we're here, we'll do our last few things. We don't need the taxi light on anymore. We still have the cowl flap open. We have full tank of gas. Well, at least the left tank is full. The right tank is not so full, but that's plenty for us to get to Wilmington. And I think we are all set. We've got our altitude and frequency and flight plan and all that in check. Okay, very good. So we've contacted the tower and we've given us the clearance to depart runway 18, and here we go. So as we get on, of course, we've also looked to make sure that there isn't any traffic, even though, you know, if we've gotten the clearance, there's probably no traffic. Lined up on the center line. And we don't hesitate here for very long, but I do want to at least make sure that we've got our runway heading set in place. So, and I would be doing this on the fly, but you see right here is the bug, and I can quickly just set it to our current runway heading, which is actually more like 179. Okay, here we go. We're ready to roll. Full power. Cool. So airspeed is alive, as you can see there in the strip. Right there. And we're getting closer to our takeoff point. And here we go. We're off. And we'll try to stay on the center line. Let me get outside the plane just so you can see that we need to raise the gear. There we go. Get back inside the plane so we can apply this properly. Okay, in fact, I'm going to ask our autopilot to take over at the present heading with the plan. Okay, I am now hands off, and let's get back outside just see where we're at. This is a cool view. Let's do this for a second. There we are, leaving the airport. There we are in the plane. Okay, that's cool. Now, back this view, and let's spin it around a little bit. That's, of course, the Atlantic Ocean. There's Myrtle Beach. There's the airport we are departing. Cool. Now, right now we're still under departure control, and they're telling us to keep to the center line until we get another instruction. So that's all cool. Let's get back inside the plane. Here you can see that at this power setting, and there's our throttle still at full power. By the way, we can cut back a little bit because you see that our load setting here is pretty high. So usually we like to come back now that we're in a stable climb. We'll cut it back to about there. That's cool, see? Now we're in green. Let's check all the rest of our engine instruments, oil pressure, oil temperature. You know, all of the instruments are reading green. Cool. That's of course what we want. We're also seeing over here that we're maintaining a nice climb, 850 feet per minute, and we're steadily climbing with a goal of 5,000. And we're maintaining a speed of 93, which is excellent. And I'll tell you more about this plane when we're cruising en route, because it's a pretty cool plane. Anyway, looking at this map over here, let's cut the range down a little bit. We want to head in a northeasterly direction, and we also want to avoid this airspace right here, which is the Grand Strand Airport in North Myrtle. You see the blue line around it, it signifies Class D airspace, and it's controlled up to 2,500 feet. So we are actually already at 3,200. We're above that airspace, so we're good. At this point, the air traffic control might tell us to fly direct Wilmington. Now, I already have that in our flight plan over here, so really all I have to do is press the navigation button on the autopilot and we'll get there. So we'll ask our autopilot to make a left turn direct Wilmington. There's our left turn, dialing it to our autopilot. Let's get outside. Well, we are outside of my languages. So here we are, and what we're doing. Hey, there's a boat down there. There's another boat. Atlantic Ocean. There's our turn. Ask the autopilot simply to give us a direct Wilmington via navigation. All right, let's get back inside the plane. Yes, meanwhile, we have now reached our altitude of 5,000 feet. And as that happens, our airspeed is now 139 because we're using now the power to thrust ourselves forward, not so much in climb. And that means we can cut back on our throttle a little bit more on our power. Let's do that. Let's cut back this load. Let's go to about that point. All right, that's a little kinder, gentler on the engine. It also makes us consume less gas. You see the fuel flow is at 11 gallons per hour. That's pretty steep. I mean, it costs a lot of money too. So let's take it at least down to like 9 or something, which is usually the average. Well, okay, right there. Now at 9 gallons per hour, our load is only about half, and our airspeed is still pretty good at 133. Now that's the indicated speed. Our actual true airspeed down here is 144 knots. That's pretty cool. And since we've got a little bit of a tailwind, our ground speed is 149. I'll call it 150 knots. That is fantastic. That's a nice speed. Let's get back outside the plane just for a little bit. Just to look around. So that's Myrtle Beach below us. We will be crossing right the Grand Strand Airport. When we get to that, I'll point it out. But meanwhile, not a bad time to talk about the airplane a little bit. This is a Diamond DA50 RG. RG is retractor gear. It is a high-performance airplane with a 300 horsepower engine, and it's not to get too technical, it's fully digital, which means that my throttle lever also controls color pick. Makes it easier to talk to you. Same way with the autopilot, makes it easier for the pilot to do other things, make sure that the engine's running properly, make sure you're control properly, make sure you're checking, and we are in a supposed instrument flight plan, so aircraft control aircraft when you have the opportunity, it's good to look around for other traffic. Back to the outside. You are driving along the north part of the South Carolina coast. We are approaching North Myrtle. And you can already see over here Grand Strand Airport. Let me put some pictures on. Maybe we can see a little bit better. Does that work? Oh yeah, there we go. So that's the Grand Strand Airport in North Myrtle Beach. And just to the north of that is the North Carolina line. I will continue to point things out as we go. And I decided to keep to this 5,000 feet altitude so that we could see a little bit of the countryside and be able to tell some landmarks apart. There's the Grand Strand Airport again. If we had an engine out procedure, it'd be no problem to make that airport. I'd glide into it, no problem. All right, very good. So, and we are on line to get to Wilmington. Okay, so we are actually, let me show you a few more things on the other side of the airplane. Okay, let's get inside the airplane. Okay, here we go. Now, this also tells me that we're from Myrtle Beach over here, and we're headed to Wilmington right there. It tells me that we are 50 miles or nautical miles from Wilmington. I can also tell over here that it's going to take me about 21 minutes to get to Wilmington. So this is certainly a good time to check our weather in Wilmington. Let's see if we're close enough to it to pick up the reception. Let me get the ATIS frequency in Wilmington. Okay, so the frequency for ATIS is 124.975. We will dial it in over here in the COM2 radio. So I'll stand by. 975. And now we'll use this little button right here to switch that or to that. Make it active. Excellent. And then we will use this COM2 button right there. So we can hear it.
Runway 17, departing runway 17. Advise on initial contact you have information Romeo.
Okay, so we know we're going to be using runway 17. We've got information Romeo. Let's hear the beginning of the recording.
Wilmington International Information Romeo 1420 Zulu Special. Wind 200 degrees at 6 knots.
0, 0
Visibility
at
for
6.
that 10 miles.
10 mile visibility.
View at 900. View at 3,300. Scattered at 40,500. Temperature 26. Dew point 20. Altimeter 2,905. Arrival
905.
7.
Okay, we got it all. We know that our altimeter is now 2,905, so we will go ahead and set that. Now, remember our altimeter setting, that's what we want to do, and that will adjust our altimeter setting to the field at Wilmington. Okay, cool. Now, let's pretend that they have switched me over to Wilmington approach, and we know we're getting runway 17, and we know we have the weather, so we've told them that, and we've made a special request to do the GPS approach over there. So let's load that up too. That's the RNAV GPS runway 17, and I'll show you how we do it over here on our autopilot. So we will be using our procedure button over here to kind of work our way through adjusting this flight plan. There's the procedure. This has approach. Have on 7, and I know from looking at my chart that I'm using the Windsor initial approach fix. So there's the Windsor initial approach fix, and we'll just go ahead and activate it because we've been told to expect it. So and I've requested to fly direct Windsor, and they've approved that. So very cool. There we are. Approach Windsor, and you can see the airplane already making the turn. Let's get outside just so you get a little bit better. The airplane's making the turn all by itself because we've just programmed it in to go direct Windsor. Let's get back inside the plane. Okay, and now inside the plane you can see we're going direct Windsor. Over here we're going direct Windsor. And by the way, that's the direct to sign right there. And so we're good. And we are 40 miles from Windsor. I'm saying miles, and you know it's nautical miles. And do we kind of confirm on our map where we are? Over here, the magenta line that you see is our direction where we're headed. Let me... Now you can see the rest of our flight. We're going from here all the way to here. That's where we're landing. This is Wilmington, North Carolina, right in there. All right. Now, good time to just recheck our engine instruments. We're still at that power setting. We're still in the green. Everything's in the green. All of our temperatures and all of our electric. We've got plenty of gas. All of that is looking good. And let's again check. We are on path right here. We are going direct Windsor. We're still at 5,000 feet. We've got an indicator of 125, true airspeed of 137, a ground speed of 145. Everything is actually looking really good. Okay, all right. So back outside to kind of enjoy the view a little bit. This is Ocean Isle, which is already in North Carolina. We've kind of flown over Calabash. Cloudy in spots. Anyway, if you know North Carolina, you would know that that's Ocean Isle. Sunset Beach was just a little bit in that direction. Holden Beach is in that direction. Beyond Holden Beach, you've got Oak Island. Beyond Oak Island, you've got Bald Head Island. You know, these are popular beach resorts in the North Carolina coast. And we're just under the clouds. It's kind of fun. Here we've got a few little clouds here and there. And again, no problem because we're on an instrument flight plan supposedly. And that's the only way we'd be able to go through clouds when we're flying. When you're flying by visual flight rules, you've got to stay a certain distance below, above, and to the side of the clouds. We're good. Getting back inside the plane. Inside the plane. There we go. And again, just confirming that we are still, you know, on our path. And we're still headed toward our initial approach fix at Windsor, and we are about 12 minutes from getting there. All right, and I think I'll ask our GPS to put us on VNAV mode. There's the visual path, and I like it because it gives me, I don't have to calculate it and use my brain math. It gives me that little point right there, which is the top of descent, and that's kind of nice because I know that from 5,000 feet at this speed, you know, I need, and the approach chart tells me I need to be at 2,100 feet by the time we get to Windsor. Okay, all right, we're good. We've got a little time to get all that done. Let's get back to that map for a little bit, and let's start to hone in on it so we can start getting better and better views of our destination. Another thing I like about these maps is that I know that from where my plane is at to here is 12.5 nautical miles. So I can guesstimate how much longer it's going to be from here to there, or how much from here to the actual airport. You know, it gives you a real good way of guesstimating distances. Okay. All right. Back outside for a little bit while we still can to just enjoy the view. Let's go. Now we're inland in North Carolina. You know that the ocean is to the right of us, and behind us there you can still see a little bit of the coastline. Behind us you can see more of the coastline. The clouds get in the way, but they're cool, aren't they? The clouds are cool. All right. This Diamond, by the way, you know, it's just a phenomenal plane. It's got a top speed of over 200 knots if you could get that fast and you want to use that much gasoline. Our usual average cruise speeds can be, you know, 140 to 170, you know, without using too much gas. I'm flying it at a comfortable, slower speed than that, but, you know, it does have an awful lot of power. It can seat 5 people comfortably with the luggage and all that stuff, you know, so that's pretty great. And it's luxurious inside. It's a roomy cabin, luxurious. This is, you know, not your average general aviation single-engine piston. The cost of this thing is about $1.4 million. That's a pretty expensive airplane. So it's cool that if this is your first time in a Sim DA50, it's a treat. All right, very cool. So let's get back to the map and just see where we're at in relation to top of descent. Okay, so there's our top of descent, right there. Okay, right there. Here's us. We're probably, what, 15 miles or so from it? Actually, we can tell precisely how far we are to Windsor. Over here, it tells us we are actually 22 miles, and it is 9 minutes away. So that's good. I think we're getting most of our preparation set. We've gotten our weather, so we know that. On an instrument plan, we would be reviewing approach chart. Now, I don't need to show it to you, but I don't know if you can see it. That's the approach chart. That's what an approach chart looks like. I don't like the lighting on it. Sorry about that. Well, in any event, it gives me all the details. I'll just brief myself real quick. It's the RNAV GPS runway 17 into Wilmington. It's got active dates. I know that the approach courses would be at 169 degrees at runway 17, approximating that. I know we have 6,600 feet of runway. The touchdown zone elevation is at 32 feet. None of the notes here apply to me. I have all the frequencies, which I'd be tuning in if this were a true instrument flight plan. Well, as I mentioned, I should be getting into Windsor at 2,100 feet. Then I will turn to our next fix, which is Biloxi. At Biloxi, I'll turn right into our final approach course. And from Biloxi, I start a descent to our next point, which is called Fear, F-E-A-R-R, at 1,600 feet. From there, I go straight down to the runway with a decision altitude of 369 feet. That is, if I were flying blind in the clouds, I would have to have the runway or any of the runway markings visible at that point. Now, I will give myself a cushion. I see some of the other decision points go all the way to 420. So that would be my decision. If I get to 450 or 420 and I can't see the runway, I'm boarding the landing. A day like today, that could be absolutely no problem. But still, 450 is a number to remember. Now, if I had to go missed, I would go runway heading to 1,700 feet to direct to a point called I-Rule, I-R-U-L-E, and would hold at that point while we figure out our next move. So there we are. We have briefed our approach. Okay, cool. All right, next step is let's just prepare ourselves for that, and let's again go outside since we have a moment. I like going outside. It's the whole joy of flying for me is to be able to look at changing weather and time of day and clouds and visibility and precipitation and all that stuff is really cool. And not to mention the actual terrain. These simulators give you actual terrain. It might be a little cartoony, but the roads are laid out where they are. Everything. Buildings may not look exactly like the buildings look, but they are properly placed, and everything is getting closer and closer to reality. I just think it's beautiful. Are getting closer to our destination. Let's go back inside. Okay, let's look at our map again. All right, let's pick it up another notch closer. There we go. So now, since we moved closer from here to here is only 7 miles. And over here, we know we are 14 miles from Windsor. And over here, we know we are 5 minutes and 45 seconds from Windsor. And we are getting real close to the top of descent. We're about 8 miles from our top of descent. We'll show you how we do that once we get to that point, which is getting close. Okay, any other things to consider? Let's look at our engine instruments again. Everything's green, 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 all the way down, and we still have plenty of gasoline, and everything's coming out of the left tank, so that's cool. We've got, you like to be on your, okay, and obviously all these engine instruments real frequently to get from here to there safely. Keyword safely. All right. It wouldn't be wrong to start to slow the engine just a little bit. You know, I'm not on an airline schedule. I don't have to get anywhere at any time. I keep everything under control. Now, sometimes air traffic control might say keep your speed up, and we keep our speed up. But otherwise, I try to just little by little get down to my speeds that I'm going to use for approach and landing. Right now, I've got an indicated airspeed of 125. That's not bad. That's okay. If you were in, like, say, a Cessna, you wouldn't even get to 125. You'd be at about cruising at about 110. But 125, that's okay. That's on the slower side for this plane, and I wouldn't mind making it even a dot slower. So I'm going to already cut back on our power using the throttle. Cut back just a little smidgen. Okay. It's still maintaining our altitude at 5,000, so it'll basically slow us down a little bit. By the way, this white line that you see coming up, this white line is when I can deploy flaps. Flaps on the wings create some drag, slow the airplane down, and you can lose altitude a little faster and all that stuff. It also gives you a safer stall speed. In other words, when you deploy flaps, your stall speed reduces. Your engine won't, your wings won't stall until you get to a slower airspeed. And obviously, you don't want to stall the wings because you will just plummet straight to the earth. Okay, all right, very good. We are looking good everywhere you look. And I'm actually at a point where I can already safely deploy flaps. I'm even going to go down just another little notch. There we go. And we are 7 miles from Windsor. And we are 3 minutes from Windsor. And we are just about getting to the top of the descent. I think we changed the range on our map even more now. Maybe even more. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that gives me... So as soon as we get to the top of descent, I will start moving us in that direction. Here we are. Let's just kind of watch it. Let's watch the airplane come to it. And I'll show you what we do. We'll reduce our power settings and pitch the nose down. That'll help us descend to our goal of 2,100 feet. By the way, this is a good time to change that to our goal of 2,100 feet. There we go, right there. Okay. All right. So we are at top of descent. Let's do that now. We will reduce the throttle. You can hear the engine going out. And we will pitch the nose down. Which you can see right here, out and right here. So I'm going to pitch it down until see the bug is right where it asks me to put it. This is all pretty automatic. I don't have to do any of these calculations in my head. You can see the altitude coming down. We are checking to make sure we're still on track, and we're still going to Windsor. We'll be in Windsor in 1 minute and 32 seconds. We are 3.5 miles from Windsor. Our airspeed is still a real nice 125 at this current power setting, and our rate of descent. When you're descending, gravity takes hold a little bit and it increases your airspeed some, which is why we reduce the power, the throttle. And I can tell right here, I can go down on the throttle a little more, but that's okay. We'll just keep that airspeed. and all looking good. We are getting closer and closer to Windsor, our initial approach fix for the GPS RNAV runway 17 approach into Wilmington. All looking good, right? And by the way, over here is our whole approach course. Let's highlight all of it just so you can see the whole track of it. It goes all the way from Windsor here down to the right there. And it gives you over here the kind of distances that we have between all those waypoints. Okay. All right. Let's keep our eyes on what's going on. Now, once we get to Windsor, a little bit of and the autopilot will do it. So, I mean, I like to look at my, and it's telling me to make that right turn in 3 seconds, but you'll see that the airplane will do it itself. See, there it goes. And it's going to make, and you can see that it's turning right here, a nice standard turn. I'll give it a little bit of right rudder just to coordinate our turn a little bit better. And you can see on our map that we are now on the magenta line on our, first segment of our approach course. Let's make the arrow the other way. Yeah, that's the way we're headed. Okay. Anyway, let's see. We are now going to Biloxi, which is in 5.8 miles, and we are still going down, heading down to 2,100. From Biloxi, we are going to start our descent to the next waypoint, which is our final approach fix at 1,600. So, at a time. And again, we have a moment to look outside, so let's look outside as we are descending. Little by little, everything comes. You'll be able to start seeing, vehicles on the road, and, all sorts of things like that. The vegetation becomes more clear. All's good. And this is, a hazy look that you see is typical for most general aviation flights in the summer. It's just the way it is. Some days are much clearer than others, but this is typical average, especially along the coast. What's nice is there isn't a lot of buffeting wind going on. It's kind of a nice, easy, smooth flight. You can leave your barf bags at home. All right, cool. All right, back inside. Back inside. Miles. 800 feet with a goal of 2,100 feet. Here. Knots. 53 seconds to, and once again, we're going to make our right turn into our final approach course. So let me make that head just a little bigger, maybe a little more. There we go. Just so you can start seeing more and more details of the map as we approach the runway. We are actually, even if you consider the right turn, we're not that far from the runway as we speak. Okay. It's telling us to make the right turn for the final approach course now, and you see that the autopilot is still managing this. Now you might ask yourself, how long am I going to keep the autopilot on? When do I turn it off and kind of hand fly it down? I would say you certainly. Other people may have other ideas about that, maybe even to eliminate it sooner. But I find that this is helpful. Okay, but we'll talk about that later. Right now, I want to reduce our altitude over here to the 1,600 that we're supposed to be at. And let's go nose down And we go down a little further and start reducing our speed. I mean our altitude. We'll cut back on our throttle a little bit, because I want to be at 1600. I need that to. Sure, why? Well, this is Fear on the Cape Fear River. The Cape Fear River continues going south, and the Cape Fear River into the Atlantic Ocean. All right. Anyway, so, of course, got 2 minutes to get to Fear. 18. Let's cut our speed back just a little bit more. Well, no, actually. Light slope and path right in the middle, so it'll start coming down as we approach that glide path, so it's still above us right now, but eventually, once we stay stable here at 1600 feet, eventually that glide path will come down to us. And that will be our indicator to get off of the autopilot and configure ourselves for landing. If you pretty close. We are headed right to it. Glide path is coming down. I'm going to wait till it gets to about that dot, and when it gets to that dot, I will configure everything. So the first thing we will do, which I'll start doing now, is add a set of flaps. Now, I got it. So that's over here. Okay, and give it a set of flaps right there. That'll slow us down some. See already our speed, how it's coming down? And we're staying at 16, and that's still a safe speed, so that's nice. And the other thing we must do, let's get outside the plane so you can see, but obviously you want to lower your gear. Oh, come on, let's get out of the plane. Well, that's all we have time to do it. There we go. Now let's, there they go. Back inside the plane. And let's hurry because way down there. I'm taking the autopilot off. I'm cutting our power way down so we can change that light bulb a little. Got plenty of speed to work with. As a matter of fact, we were starting to get too close to our stall speed. And here comes our bug. Give it a little more power. This over here tells us that the approach course is a little bit to the right. I want to make those, and I want to keep our approach course, our glide slope, and keep that in line as well. So really we're looking at these two things. We're looking at this and we're looking at this to instrument fly the plane. A little more power to gain some altitude. Right rudder to get back on course. More throttle to gain some altitude. Okay, now we should be on our approach course now. And I'm actually going to bug it because that's always a little helpful. There. And now I can tell as I'm looking at the airport, I can tell that I see three red lights and a white light, and that tells me that I'm a little low. What I want is two red lights and two white lights. There we go. See, two red lights and two white lights. Now I know that I'm on the proper glide path. And over here, you know, it tells us we're just a little bit to the left of the center line, just as you can tell visually that we're a little left of the center line. We know that the wind is coming out of 200, you know, so we've got a little bit, and look at, we've got 4 white lines here. I'm distracted talking to you, but so I need to come down a little bit to catch our glide slope. In any event, I know that I have a little bit of a right crosswind going on. Not too much. You saw that, or heard on our weather report that I think it was like 3 miles or 6 miles or something. That's not a very stiff wind. Okay, so there's one red dot on our. These lights are called PAPI lights, precision approach lights. So I'm still a little high with 3 white lights. Okay, I'm well configured. I could put in another set of flaps, but actually my speed is kind of low, so I'm good right here. Okay, there. Now we've got 3 red lights, so we'll give it a little power. Maybe this crosswind is a little more than 300. I thought. By the way, our decision point was at 450, and we had the airport in sight way before that. Okay, now we can use a little left rudder to line up with the runway. We still need to come over a little bit to the right.
Too low. Flaps.
Good speed. A little high now.
Too low. Flaps.
Looking good. Looking good. Going a little bit of right aileron to fight the wind, and a little bit of left rudder to straighten out. Now the wind is going to stop a little bit. Here we go. Fly it all the way in. A little more right aileron, right rudder. And we are on the ground. There we go. Simple as. And we'll start slowing down, and I think I didn't make that exit. Okay, how about that? Okay, I'll get off over here on this side. And we are going to stop right here and complete our flight. Get on the other side of the whole short line here. And welcome to Wilmington, North Carolina. Let's get outside the plane for one final time. Did we get outside the plane? I don't think we did. There we go. There's the tower. Actually, we're on the wrong side of the field. All the other stuff, our FBO or the other operations are on the other side, but that's fine. then we could easily just cross over and get to the other side of the airfield. That's where we would park the plane and all that stuff. Here's a car. Oh, that's pretty cool. There was a car. All right. Anyway, there you go. Wilmington, North Carolina. Your first flight on a Diamond DA50 retractable gear. All's well that ends well. All right. Thank you for joining me on this first flight. That was a lot of fun for me. Great. See you next time.